Welcome to Geek Zone Wrestling, a podcast by two lifelong wrestling fans who just want to talk wrestling.
Tonight was
Wrestlemania, Night 2.
WrestleMania Night 2. And there's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, for the, if anybody happened to listen to the episode last night, they mentioned that Bailey was not going to be in action tonight, that she was going to be replaced by someone that Lyra Valkyria found. We will get to that eventually. Other than that, I don't believe there was any pre-show announcements or changes.
Yeah, there were no pre-show shenanigans, so to speak, that I
So
saw.
we'll get into the first match, the triple threat between Bianca, Rhea, and EO Genius of the Sky. So,
coming off of last night's WrestleMania, I didn't have high hopes for a great match. I was pleasantly surprised when this match was so well executed.
I mean, I was expecting a good match from them. They're three very top tier superstars, and it sounds bad, but I often feel like the women don't do as well in matches as the men. Like, I feel like they don't run as fast, and they're like, if one's in the corner, when they're running, you can tell that they're not running very hard, or they'll have like,
when they throw them into the ropes, they're kind of like in a slow jog.
yeah, and I just think it's because a lot of times I feel that they don't get as much focus as the guys, so they don't get as much time to really practice and show. I don't think it's a lack of ability. I think it's just that they haven't had as many opportunities to, I don't want to say learn, but to really elevate.
Yeah.
I mean, they get better and better every year, every new person that comes along, and I love that. But like, for example, the Divas era, it was like, oh, she's running against the ropes and she's, practically like power walking by the time she gets to the person.
Yeah.
But these three women, they did better than some of the men's matches that, the guys have been there, putting on these matches for a while, and they made them look like chumps.
Yes. This match was really well done. I think three of them deserve all the kudos in the world. It was fantastic. There were amazing spots in the match.
The one thing I do want to say is I feel that Io Sky is very much like the Rey Mysterio of the women's division. She's relatively small. She's a high flyer. So, when paired up with women, with the strength of Bianca, Rhea, Raquel, Jade, like, she's going to be
the underdog.
Yeah, it's like Rey Mysterio going up against Big Show.
Yes.
But she is so innovative and quick that she can really take that disadvantage and even the playing field.
Yeah, agreed. I think she was absolutely fantastic. She was wonderful. Like, she sells with the best of them. Between her and Ripley, I think those are the two best women's sellers.
And boy, did they tonight. And Bianca, like, she was going out there with these two, and they were just playing off each other time and time again. And I don't know if it was supposed to be like a double Hurricane Rana or something, but at one point, Io jumped off the top rope and like rested her knees on the side of both Rhea and Bianca and sort of like rolled off of them.
Or if it was supposed to be like a Meteora or something.
And they both like flipped. And it was like, you could tell that it wouldn't have literally worked in real life. But they timed it so perfectly, it looked like she did something to him.
Yeah.
and they all worked really well together, and it was, I cannot say enough about that being the perfect match to start the show.
That was a great match to start the show, and I got to give you kudos because you called the entire ending sequence.
That was really cool.
It was really cool. Go ahead and tell them.
I didn't think that I would actually be right. I just like, oh man, I think this would be the perfect ending to this match, and then they did it. I thought that the perfect ending to the match would be Bianca hitting the KOD on Rhea, and then when she was going to, pin Rhea, Io comes out and does a high flying move, lands on him, and she takes the pin. And she did that, pinned Bianca,
and retained her title, which I think was super important for her because if she would have lost at Mania, she would have disappeared into mid card. And
she definitely deserves to be now. Now with them having women's mid card championships, that's not as bad, but I definitely feel like Io deserves her time in the spotlight. She deserves her time to shine, and I do believe that right now works.
I
It
agree.
fits. With both Asuka and Sane out right now, she doesn't have a group. She doesn't have anything holding her back right now. And I'm not trying to say that, Damage Control or, teaming with the Kabuki Warriors was holding her back. They did great things. But now it's her time to really show what she can do on her own.
Yes.
Asuka's had that time. Kairi, she left the company for a while to go back to Japan.
Right.
Um, you know, she may get her time. She may not. I don't know yet. But of all the women that I feel really stand out in the division, she's the one that really hasn't had the opportunity to
be showcased.
Go out on her own and have a really good singles run. Easy for me to say on the main roster.
You're absolutely right. Like I remember watching the I think it was War Games.
Oh,
and I thought, Io has got it. Like everything she's doing is exactly right. She sells it. She can dish it out, and like she's really exciting to watch.
Oh, she is, especially when she like hits a move and like ah.
The only thing I'm disappointed
it pumps
with,
you up.
The only thing I'm disappointed with is I still want to see her against Tiffany Stratton because those two really stood out to me in that War Games match, and the two of them in the same ring at the same time, I think would have been a phenomenal match.
We might still.
I'm hopeful.
My hopefulness is that once Kairi and Asuka and all of them come back, we're going to see more spread out. Like Chelsea Green and Lyra Valkyrie are still the first ever mid card women's champions.
Mm-hmm.
Between the United States and Intercontinental. I would like to see more women. Main event status or not, go after those titles because you have main event caliber men going after the Intercontinental and United States.
Mm-hmm.
And then the women, it's just like, oh well, no. Bailey has the match. Oh, she lost. Oh well. Chelsea Green has a match with Meechin. Nah, she won. All right, cool, whatever.
Yeah, and I think at the point that number one, it's a new title, which should have brought some excitement with it, but at the same time, there's no, in the terms of Gunther, there's no prestige to it. It doesn't mean much yet.
Yeah. And like the men's United States and Intercontinental Championships do, because they've been around since a long time ago. The United States came about after the merger of WCW
Mm-hmm.
and WWE. The United States Championship came over from WCW and merged with the light heavyweight or European, I can't remember which one. And then the Intercontinental has been around. It was the mid card title for a long time. It was that, and then the WWE World
Yeah,
Championship.
Pat Patterson was the first Intercontinental champion.
And Harley Race was the first United States Championship, but it really didn't become the big thing it is now. Until that merger, and they're like, hey, we're going to take all these titles, and they're all going to be represented in this
Well,
one title.
Let me correct you on one thing. The United States title was a big deal in WCW, but it didn't become a big deal in WWE until after the merger.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I meant to say.
But yeah, I'm totally on board with you. The men's titles have a long-standing history, and they have some extremely great wrestlers behind them that have held those titles for long periods of time and have made it prestigious.
Or, even if they haven't held it for a really long time, say they only held it for like 2 or 3 months, but, like they elevated, like say, for example, Charlotte were to win the United States Championship. Whoever beats Charlotte Flair, that United States Championship, is going to have buzz.
Yeah.
It even if she only had it for a couple months, she elevated the person that beat her just by being a, unfortunately, world-renowned champion.
Agreed. It needs some storyline behind it to gain momentum.
And here's the thing: it maybe if these titles were around, during the whole women's revolution thing, maybe Charlotte wouldn't have had so many world titles because she would have had another title that they could have put on her.
Yep.
And then other women could have, like Becky Lynch or Bayley or them, could have had more titles early on so that everyone was a little more even, instead of, well, we really want Charlotte to be a champion, but all we have are the Raw and SmackDown titles. Well, we could put it on you, but we want it on her.
Yeah.
And to be, Charlotte is highly athletic, and she, definitely deserved a bunch of those, but I feel like a lot of them have been, I'd say 6, maybe 7 of her, like, 14 championships have been just because they wanted to put a belt on her, and
they wanted to put a belt on a Flair.
Yeah. And it wasn't that she really did anything to warrant the championship in those moments.
Right.
But
so moving on to the second match of the night.
One thing I did want to mention about that match specifically was I really did enjoy the fact that, when they were, out there, doing all this stuff, it was far better than the 2 matches that women had the night before.
Oh, put together.
And the match later on for the tag titles, I also felt did not compete with this.
No, it certainly did
So
not.
they were the highlight of the women's division on WrestleMania weekend.
Yeah, as far as I'm concerned, that is 100% accurate.
I give it an A.
Yeah, definitely A. A for the women. They were fantastic tonight.
Second match being, surprisingly to me, the Sin City Street Fight between Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre. Sponsored by Doom.
We aren't sponsored by Doom, but the match was.
Yeah.
At any rate, this was a brutal match. I mean, absolute brutality took place. I mean, everything from chairs to steps to tables.
Everything except Little Ladder.
Everything except for Little Ladder.
Although, I'm, Spanish announce table came back.
Yes, that was a highlight. Spanish announce table came back and it got destroyed. Not in this match, but
once on each night. But yeah, Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest, they put out a heck of a fight, brutalized each other. Kind of kind of looked like both of them were worse for wear by the end of it.
Yeah, by the end, I was questioning whether or not either of them was actually physically hurt.
Okay. Um,
Because, I mean, it really, they were grimacing and moving in ways that they didn't move at the beginning of the
and McIntyre was like kind of punching over at times and looked like he was limping a little bit.
match. Looked like he couldn't even walk.
To
Looked like his back was hurting so bad he couldn't stand it.
be fair, he did hit a future shock DDT on steel steps.
That's true.
So,
Which
and
looked like did more damage to him than Damien.
yeah, it looked like it cut his back up a bit, and Damien was kept saying he couldn't breathe.
Yeah, at the end of the match, they panned back over to him and he said, "I can't breathe. I can't breathe."
And it's hard to tell what's selling and what's not when such intense stuff happened.
And when they are such good actors.
Yeah, and the ending was especially brutal. Um, McIntyre set up a couple chairs outside the ring.
Tables.
That's what I meant. And then he set up another one in the ring, planning to just destroy Priest. But then Priest managed to hit a razor's edge through the table in the ring. And it looked like he was taking control. Went for an old school. Took a little too long, and McIntyre pushed him out of the ring through the other two tables at ringside. And before all this, Damian Priest had put a chair between the middle and top turnbuckle. And if you're heading to the ring, it'll be the back left corner. And as he was going to get back in the ring, Drew McIntyre claymored him into it and then pinned him.
Yeah, this was ridiculously, and I'm going to repeat the same word, brutal. It was heavy hitting the whole time. I was thoroughly impressed. The match was really good. I was concerned for both fighters because, again, I wasn't sure at the end if they were actually hurt or if they were just working it.
I guess we'll find out in the coming week. Rumor is Jey Uso got hurt. Both Priest and McIntyre look like they could have been hurt. It's, I guess, one of the drawbacks of trying to put on the best show possible.
Occupational hazard.
Rey Mysterio may be or may not be,
actually hurt.
Well, they said he's hurt, but the severity was unknown.
Right.
And since he was walking around, I would assume it is a minor injury and he may only be out like a couple weeks.
Yeah, he didn't even have a boot on in that press conference.
Yeah, my guess is, now, if you sprained your ankle or twisted your ankle or something, doing stuff like this, not smart.
Not a great idea, yeah.
Because that's just going to cause it to be even worse. So it may not be something severe. It's like, oh, hey, cut my hand open. I'm perfectly fine, but I'm bleeding, so I can't really, touch something.
Right.
Not severe, but you shouldn't do what it is that you need to do.
But for the Sin City Street fight, I am going to give that one a B plus.
Same.
I think it was
B
well
for
fought,
brutal.
well acted, well fought, well executed.
Damian Priest took a page out of Rhea's book and looked at McIntyre and said, "This is my brutality."
So into match number 3.
Remind me what that one was?
We had 3 really good matches right off the top. It was pulling it up.
Was that the Randy Orton, or was Randy Orton fourth? I thought Randy Orton
I think he was fourth. It was Oh, the Fatal Four Way.
Ah, yes. The Intercontinental.
Yeah, the Intercontinental title on the line. Finn Balor, Penta, Dominic Mysterio,
And
and
Braun
Braun
Breaker.
Breaker.
Which, by the way, can't go wrong when you got Braun Breaker.
I would tend to agree. And this match was interesting.
It was also very well done in the aspect of, you know, both Penta and Braun are, you know, opposite.
Yeah,
Like Penta is the very, bounce off the rope and, like,
he's the lucha libre.
yeah, and Braun is very much, I'm gonna run and hit you.
Yeah,
And then you have Dominic, who's kind of like a mixture of them, and then Finn, who's kind of his own entity, just altogether. He can strike, he can do flippy dippies, he can, like, I'm gonna jump up real high and stomp your ass. So you've got three guys that are very high flyers, and then Braun Breaker, who's just fast.
fast and big.
I mean, the dude, like, at
He's
one
built like a tank.
and flies like a jet. But at one point, Penta had Finn and Dominic outside the ring, and Breaker jumped over the both of them and shoulder checked Penta from like ringside to ringside.
Yeah,
It's just like you see Penta, and all of a sudden you just see a Braun Breaker fly by.
his talent is remarkable. Like he is, as far as I'm concerned, the future of the business.
Oh yeah,
He's going to be the next big thing.
I mean he's the closest thing I think you'll ever get to a Goldberg mixed with a Rey Mysterio.
Yes.
He's got the speed of Rey Mysterio with Goldberg's, sheer power. And it's just like, what? Huh? Like, I think he could beat Paul London in a race, and Paul London ran to the ring so fast that he slid through it.
So yeah, as this match wore on, it started out with Dominic and Finn working together to take people out, and eventually,
Dominic went to hit the 619 on Finn. Finn caught him and started stomping a mud hole in his dirty ass.
so things kind of fell apart from there, and it was pretty much every man for himself from that point on. Uh, Finn was not happy with Dom at all. Penta and Braun had their own thing going. And what I liked about this match is each guy got a chance to shine. They got
Yeah.
a little bit of time to hit all three of the other guys and show out.
And Finn got to do his coup de grace, his sling blade. Dominic got to at least attempt the 619, and then finally managed to hit it later on. He did the whole Three Amigos thing, which I'm still. Penta got to do his
Mexican Destroyer,
on a trash can. Dumb, but
and he got to do his finish. I forget what the heck he calls that finisher.
black.
Whatever it is, he got to do that.
Yep. And Breaker hit like 3 spears and a Frankensteiner. But I called the first match. You called this one.
I did. I called this one. So my initial thinking a couple days ago was here's how Judgment Day breaks up, because they got the fatal four way and somebody is going to get hit by Finn. Finn's going to go for the pin, and Dominic is going to do something to get him out of the ring and pin them, which is exactly what happened. Finn Balor had just hit coup de grace on Breaker and went for the pin, and Dominic came out of nowhere off the top rope with a frog splash, hitting Finn Balor and pinned Finn Balor to win the Intercontinental Championship.
And funny enough, he hit Breaker with the 619. and then he was going up for the frog splash, and then Finn,
Pulled him down.
made him lose his balance, so he, came down like he did to cost Finn the Intercontinental title. Finn went up coup de grace Breaker and is laying with his back on top of Braun Breaker for the pin, and Dom frog splashed them both.
Yeah.
He frog splashed Finn on top of Breaker, thus, making it so that Breaker couldn't just automatically get up and stop the pin. And Finn got sandwiched between, a, a rocky hard place and Dom. And
but Dom is your new Intercontinental Champion.
And we will see whether or not it does, in fact, cause Judgment Day to implode.
I think Finn's going to lose his junk, and he is going to just be livid because I'm firmly believing that now that Dom has the title, he is going to collectively call himself the leader of the Judgment Day, and that's not going to bode well with Finn. I think we're going to get a split. I think we're eventually going to see the Demon come back, and Finn will be, his own entity once again.
He deserves it.
He does. He does. So moving on.
Randy Orton.
Randy Orton.
Versus mystery opponent. Oh, we did forget that during that match was when the Spanish announce table got busted.
It was so good to see. Blast from the past.
Yeah. Braun Breaker speared Carlito from one announce table through the other.
It was wonderful. At any rate, Randy Orton versus mystery opponent. He comes out and cuts a promo, starts talking about, whoever has the guts is going to have their WrestleMania moment by the 3 most dangerous letters in sports entertainment.
RKO.
Then the camera cuts
to the stage.
And you said his name.
And he appeared.
We believe in Joe Hendry. Joe Hendry came out. I was so elated. I was beside myself. I loved every second of this. I was hoping upon hope it was him and not Rusev. I'm ecstatic. So he comes down and he has a short little match with Randy Orton. He loses, but it was so good to see him at Mania. He came out. He got a little bit on Orton. He kind of countered a few of Orton's moves, countered a couple of RKO's, and then he decided to do his, taunt where he raises his arms and then turns to smile at the crowd, and that's when Randy RKO'd him and pinned him.
But then Randy Orton did his, pulling his hands up and then turns to the camera, and then Randy did his own pose.
It was a wonderful, wonderful sight. I am so happy that it was Joe Hendry. And I look forward to seeing more of him in the future. At least I hope. I would love to see him.
I just love the timing when I'm like, I think Joe Hendry had rotator cuff issue, and I'm like, Joe Hendry, say his name, and perfect timing.
Yeah, this was just an amazing surprise. I'm so happy. So going on after that, we had the women's tag titles. Or no. It was Logan Paul and AJ Styles.
Yep. Which, as much as I dislike Logan Paul, I really thought that this could have been the match that stole the show.
Yeah, I
it didn't.
No, it did not. This was the slowest match of the night as far as I'm concerned. It was even slower than, what we're going to talk about later. But I thought this would be like a high-paced, high-energy match, and it just wasn't. Even the crowd at WrestleMania, which was in a frenzy before, fell dead quiet. And it got hard to watch for a while, man. between Paul and AJ, it was like, man, what the heck is going on? This is not like AJ Styles that I'm used to seeing. This is not a Logan Paul I'm used to seeing. There wasn't much going on. I mean, they had some heavy hits, and there was a move here, and then wait. Oh, a move there. Wait. Oh, that was cool. It wasn't what I was hoping it would be, and it wasn't what I was thinking it was going to be. But all in all, I mean, decent, I guess. Uh, it didn't hold up to the first few matches at all.
No, no, it definitely didn't. Um, I didn't really live up to my expectations either. I really just thought that they were going to. It's athletic as they both are. I really thought that they were going to just put on an absolute slobber knocker.
I thought it was going to be an absolute clinic on how to do this.
Like drop kicks, Pele kicks, enziguris, splashes, 450s, phenomenal forearms.
Yeah, we didn't even see a Pele kick.
No, it was disappointing.
The one thing that I did enjoy about the match was when Logan Paul stole AJ Styles Clash.
And he no sold his own move.
Yeah, AJ no sold the move, got up and did it right back to Logan Paul, and I'm thinking the whole time he was like, he probably was saying, "Here, let me show you how to do that, son."
And one of Logan Paul's buddies came out to give him brass knuckles, and I guess being fans for so long, I was like, Karrion Kross will stop him. Sure enough, Karrion Kross
showed up, grabbed the dude's hand with the knucks, took the knucks.
AJ Styles came out, got rid of the guy. Kross tried to give Styles the knuckles. Styles took the knuckles, chucked the knucks, and then hit Kross. Unfortunately, taking enough time for Logan Paul to,
compose himself.
Yeah, recuperate. Styles went to hit the phenomenal forearm, missed, and then when he bounced back, he got titanium punched and then pulverized
and pinned.
Logan Paul won
at Mania.
Boo.
Yeah, I didn't want him to win. I expected him to. He is unbelievably, disgustingly talented. Yeah. But I just don't like him.
No.
And worse yet, I think after this match, Styles may have crossed Kross.
Shame his name's not Chris. But I give that match C plus B minus because they did have some really good spots, but it was overall disappointing given who was in it.
I'm gonna give it a flat C. Like it was.
That's C's are curved. A flat C is a line or an I.
Okay, then I'm gonna give it an I. No, it's a C for me. Like the match was boring for the most part. It did have its spots. It had a few moments where it was like, oh, that was cool.
Because the spot where Logan Paul jumped over the rope and AJ Styles caught him in the apron and started beating on him.
Yeah, that was fun.
Logan the sliding Paul knee,
doing his slingshot, clothesline, and
that's why it's like C plus B minus because they had really cool spots, but it was not the fast paced back and forth that I came to expect from the two of them separately, let alone you put them together.
Yeah. Speaking of which, we also did not grade the previous.
Oh,
B. B for Randy Orton and Joe Hendry.
Yes.
I'm going A, but I'm biased. I
Uh,
love Joe Hendry. I love
what,
Randy
you think
Orton.
I'm not biased?
I'm giving it an A
Too
because
short.
it was short, but it was so good to
Okay, fine,
see.
fine, fine. A minus. A minus. Because I cannot give it an A because of how short it was.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair.
I mean, it's Randy Orton versus Joe Hendry. That was a dream for me. And then I finally get it at WrestleMania. What I'd been hoping for, what I was like, desperately being like, WWE, you need to do this. Like, you need to pull the plug, pull the pin, and just let it go. And then he goes out there, he lands like two moves on Orton, and then the rest of the time it was just like punches, kicks, whatever, and then taunt RKO over. Like,
I think I also think that there's a reason behind that because Hendry did in fact have a rotator cuff injury that he is currently dealing with. So
still,
I think a short match was exactly what he needed to get his face out there on Mania. And for his first WrestleMania moment as the TNA World Champion,
that was a big
that's
deal.
history. So for me,
Shit,
A.
you're right. He the the freaking TNA World Champion. Yeah, it's an A.
And the Fatal Four Way,
B.
I'm gonna give it a B plus. Like I thoroughly enjoyed that match.
I did too, and it was. Problem is, I don't want to give everybody A's
Well, I don't
because
either.
then I feel like it's going to cheapen each individual.
I agree with that, but you got to call it the way it was. And what was interesting to me about the Fatal Four Way is at the beginning, the entire crowd was booing Dominic. At the end, they were cheering hysterically for him.
Probably because of the fact that he pinned Finn.
Exactly. So that in and of itself was worth watching. So
Okay, I'll pull the A minus here, just because those were my three favorite matches on the card.
yeah,
And the thing with Breaker and Penta and like, oh man, that was insane.
that was the type of match I expected from Styles and Paul. So yeah, I'm giving it an A minus.
Yeah,
Now moving on to the women's tag team championships.
Liv and Raquel come down to the ring,
Lyra Valkyria comes out.
and they're like, "Who'd you get? Who'd you get?" And she came out with these really cool like wing sleeves.
Yeah, the white
Love
and gold.
those. And then she stands down by the ring, and then they pan up to the stage. Oh, oh,
And the crowd erupts. Becky
Becky Lynch
Lynch
is
is
back.
back. This was wonderful. I loved seeing Becky Lynch come back. I was hoping for it at Royal Rumble, to be honest. I was so happy when it was her because I had heard a few other rumors that I really did not want it to be.
Same. I heard Nikki Bella, and I did not want that.
Yeah, I had no desire to see that. So seeing Becky Lynch come in, I was ecstatic about that. Another, somewhat surprise. And the match itself, pretty good. Becky looked like
Really
she
good.
hadn't missed a day. Like she did really, really well. She may have been in better shape than she was when she left. To be
Yeah.
completely honest.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I gotta say the fact that Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch, both from like the UK and One is,
Both from Ireland.
I mean, thought she was Irish, but I couldn't tell for sure. I couldn't remember. Um, like one is now a veteran to the other one who's like just coming in. I mean, I know they've both been in wrestling before WWE, but
Yeah,
it's sort of like mentor and mentee kind of thing. And I think that's super cool.
I do
Plus,
too. And Liv and Raquel also very very talented. The match was really good. Went back and forth, and I think the thing that stuck out most to me was how well Becky performed after being out for so long.
yeah. And it was unsure whether or not she would actually come back yet because she said that, you know, she was taking a break to be a mom, and who's to say when you're ready to, stop spending all that time with your kid to go back to doing this,
Yeah,
you know. So hopefully she worked out a contract that works for both parties, or maybe it was just a one-off. Who knows? You
who
know,
knows?
I mean,
But
I
either
don't, I don't think they would have had them win if it was a one-off, but like sometimes they do, brief contracts like, hey, you've got like, come back at Mania, win the titles, and then you'll drop it, in a couple weeks. It may be a short-term thing. We don't know yet.
But either way, it was great to see her. And as he said, Lyra and Becky got the pin, or well, Becky got the disarmor, and then it was escaped from, and then she hit what I call rock bottom because it was an uranagi.
Manhandle slam.
Yeah, the manhandle slam. I just call it the rock bottom. But she hits that and gets the pin. So Lyra Valkyria and Becky Lynch are the women's tag team champions. Which leads into the
The
main event. John Cena.
versus Cody Rhodes.
Now, I had been saying for the past week to a buddy of mine that Cena is not going to have the grandiose entrance that he usually does. Because he literally said in some of his promos, you all were expecting new outfit, new music. You get nothing. So I was kind of expecting what happened. His music hit, and he came out with a completely black screen, black down the ramp, just said John Cena. That was it. No pomp and circumstance, no nothing special. It was just him walking down a black screen behind him. Cody Rhodes' entrance, however, was grandiose. They had a group of motocross cyclists driving across the stage, and then they stop, and out comes Rhodes. He has this skull mask on with like these golden ear looking wings, and it pulled an Iron Man. The front of it just slid up by itself. And then he comes down, his usual shtick, fireworks and all that. Crowd singing his song. The match, however, it was it was a different feel because Cena did not do anything that he used to do for the most part. I mean, he did a few moves here and there, but it was slow and methodical. Like he'd hit something and then he'd walk around and mouth off to Cody for a bit, and then he'd hit another move. It was very, very reminiscent of the AJ Styles and Logan Paul match. It was oh, okay, he hit him. Let's wait. Oh, okay, he hit him. Let's wait.
Another thing about it was like every time Cena were to, start taking damage, he would duck out of the ring.
Yeah, very heel move. So he is absolutely leaned into this heel character of his, and I feel like he did it really really well. But it made the match drag, and after a while, it was like, come on guys, do something. And to his credit, John Cena did hit four AAs, one of them off the top rope. But at the same time, there was so much time in between each one that it was like, okay, is the match over now? But in the end, it was Travis Scott coming out
Boo.
of, out of nowhere, and he comes down very slow and methodically. Took his time getting down the ramp. Got there long enough to, number one, take a crossroads, and number two, distract the ref and Cody Rhodes long enough for Cena to mount an attack. And he went and grabbed the title belt, tried to hit Cody with it. Cody intercepted, and they fought over the belt for a few seconds, and then Cody ended up with the belt. Cena starts pleading. I don't know if he was pleading for him to do it or not to do it.
Not to do it.
And Cody ended up not doing it. And as soon as he set the title down, Cena kicked him in the nuts, picked up the title, hit him in the head with it, and pinned him. So John Cena is the 17-time world champion, surpassing Ric Flair's 16 for the all-time record in WWE. I expected a little more from the match, like, I don't know, some more interference type stuff or something toward the end to make it more exciting, but it just didn't happen.
Yep.
Your thoughts?
Well, no, you pretty much covered everything that I thought. Like it was too predictable in my opinion. I mean, obviously Cena doing new moves and all that, but it almost looked like Cody was not even trying. Like Cena was just so in control and dominant, and it was very obvious what they were doing. I felt very underwhelmed. You know, there wasn't this edge of your seat. Like what's going to happen now.
Yeah,
So that's what kind of killed it for me. And then Travis Scott was just like, all right, I don't care anymore.
yeah. I'm not a fan of Travis Scott, and having him come out for me was like, why are we doing this? Why him? Why not have somebody on the roster that either is The Rock or you're going to say is with The Rock?
You find out the Rock, like have Randy Orton come down, and you're like, oh man, he's going to help Cody, and then he ends up helping Cena because he wants that title, and he views Cena as being an easier target.
Yes, something. But that did not occur, and the match went down as it did. And
Boo.
well, I'm happy that Cena won the title. I am. I'm glad he got 17. I think he absolutely deserves it. It clearly makes him the go.
Go. He deserves it far more than Ric Flair.
And I'm really happy for him. And even the crowd was. They were on his way back up the ramp. They were chanting, "Thank you, Cena."
And he, funny enough, as he was walking up, it looked like he was wiping a tear away from his eye. Like, he was trying to stay in this heel character, but you could tell that he was, you know, it was very obvious to him that it was his last Mania, and he was now walking to the back. He wasn't going to get to do this anymore. So it was kind of hitting him, and that was kind of nice to see. I felt bad because it's like, he's trying to be this new heel character, and he's getting emotional.
Yeah.
But
So, how would you rate the main event?
C. Nah, C plus. If I was basing it strictly off character work, it would be a B plus. But as the overall, the thing with Travis Scott mixed with the slow pace, after all of the matches that came before it, with the exception of Logan, even Logan Paul and AJ Styles match was faster than that one. You know, they had the moves that
Yeah, they
were,
had a few high flying spots. So yeah, there were a few.
yep, and it was just having that slow match follow all of the other matches on the card, especially those three that were just so above and beyond. And then, Joe Hendry appeared, Becky Lynch came back. It was, I felt like, as much as I hate it for John Cena, you know, he should not have closed out night two if that's how they were going to do the match.
I think he should have closed out night two, but I think they should have done more with it.
He should have.
They should have built more on this Rock storyline with him.
But I'm just the slow methodical Cena that he was there should not have been the final match of WrestleMania, just because of the fact of all the good matches before it now make that look less.
What my thought is, at the end of the match, they should have had more people coming out to try and sway the match. You have maybe The Rock himself come out like he did for last Mania, and then I don't know, Stone Cold, or somebody within the realm of Cody Rhodes' friends come out. Something to pick up the pace at the end of the match to give it that excitement where you're on the edge of your seat at the end of the match. Like, what in the God's name is going on right now?
Or have Roman come out and screw Cody because, of Cody beating him a
Yeah,
year
something,
prior.
something like that. Orton, Roman, even Jay.
But that's why I give it lower.
The
It's just
rumor
when you
was
had,
Rollins.
well, I mean, it's still rumored that Rollins is a part of the Rock's faction, but I don't know if they wanted to necessarily confirm that, one night later. You know, give it a little bit of a build up. But
But either
I
way, I
felt
think
like following all of those other matches, it made this one less than, say, if this one was earlier.
I agree. I agree.
And
But
I,
at the
I,
same time, it's the record.
I know, and like I said, I'm not. It's hard because this main event was deserving of being a main event because of the status, because of the connotations of, you ain't never going to see Cena at WrestleMania again, at least not in a wrestling capacity.
And the connotation of Cena saying that he's going to win the belt and retire and disappear with it.
Yeah. Um.
Now, what happens on Monday
Well, he already said that
or on Friday?
he already said that he's going to continue wrestling throughout the year.
Yeah, initially he said he has until December, the end of December.
Well, they already confirmed on an advertisement that he's going to be in Perth in October. That was during the show. They announced SmackDown, Raw, and in a soon to be announced premium live event in Perth in October.
Hmm. Okay.
So clearly
He's still going to show.
booked. But yeah, the Travis Scott thing automatically dropped it down a letter.
I'm going to agree. Like,
So it was, no matter what, like I said, character wise, A plus. It had to be hard for Cena to go out there on Wrestlemania, his final Wrestlemania. The fans are doing the whole, thank you, Cena sucks thing. Everything that he'd been used to for all those years, and to, keep that straight face and do that heel character while admittedly trying to. I'm sure he was very emotional.
I'm sure. Yeah.
Inside he was probably, trying to soak it up as much as possible,
I'm
but
sure he was torn.
trying not to show any emotion. And he kept laughing and smiling every now and then. I think that was him like trying to let some of it out, but trying to do it in moments where he could stay in the character.
Yeah, where it was able to be played off as laughing and
Taunting or
coaxing,
whatever.
yeah, taunting Cody.
Um, so in that aspect, A plus, definitely. The Cody being torn between, desperate to win but also desperate to do it the right way. But Travis Scott knocks it down to a B, and then just the slow paced match after so many other incredible matches on the card. I gotta bump it down again.
Yeah, the slow pace got to me. I'm elated that Cena got his 17th. I'm elated about the way they're building his new character. I like I like that Cody was torn between, you know, becoming what Cena said he needed to and trying to do it the right way. I love that. I mean, you can feel that kind of emotion, but I wanted more out of this match, so I'm going to have to say for me it was a C.
And that was WrestleMania. Nights both 1 and 2 are in the books.
So let's talk overall. Night 1 and night 2 together. Give me your rating.
B plus.
B plus. Okay.
Just because each night had two matches that I thought were subpar, and it ended in a way that it was kind of disappointing for me. But
Okay.
so I'm giving it as close to an A as I possibly can without giving it an A.
I'm giving it a B
Hmm.
because Charlotte and Tiffany was underwhelming. Naomi and Jade would have been far better on SmackDown, and I think the SmackDown titles would have been better suited
Tag
for
titles.
Mania. Yeah, the tag titles would have been better suited for Mania than that match. Uh, the Styles Paul match didn't live up to expectation, and the Cena Rhodes match lackluster is the word I'd have to use. So I'm giving it just a B. I don't think I could give it an A. I don't want to get it close to an A because I didn't feel like it was an A.
Well, they did a lot of things right, and they had a lot of great matches.
They did. They had a lot of fantastic things, but those four took it down enough for me to say, you know what, this was not the greatest Mania I've ever seen, but it was great.
Yeah, definitely.
It was definitely above average, but it was not spectacular.
I agree.
So that's our
Out of
review.
well, one more thing
Okay. Okay.
before we close it out. Out of both nights, is there a favorite match and or moment that you think was the best of the weekend?
Um, like I want to say the Jey Uso match, but there was there was a different feel for that one than what I expected. It was wonderful. I can't say that that was the number one match for me because the Rollins, Punk, and Reigns match was so outstanding. That that to me was by far the best of the entire Mania.
Should have gone first.
I mean, all the spots. I mean, that was a match where I was consistently on the edge of my seat, waiting to see what happened next.
Yep, and like that's why I said that I felt like Cena should have closed out night one because you closed out night one with that, and then you closed out night two with that.
Yeah, I get that. I get that. Yeah,
Like imagine closing out WrestleMania with Rollins and Heyman, at the stage, Roman sitting there like trying to figure out what to do now, and Punk looking like okay, fuck all you. I feel like that would have been the proper way to end the night two, but
I'm not going to disagree with you. I think if they would have flip flopped those two matches, it would have finished out better, and maybe I would have even rated the overall better.
and Paul Heyman's a way better interference than Travis Scott.
Way better, and a way better actor.
To be fair, Travis Scott is a singer.
I know, but Heyman, everything he does is like gold.
Yeah,
His facial expressions, his body mechanics, he's got it.
yeah.
So thank you all for listening this weekend. I'm really happy that we got to hang out and watch Mania together, and I'm really glad we got to do a podcast on each night and tons of videos on TikTok. If you enjoy any of what we do, consider giving us a thumbs up or subscribe maybe. We're on all platforms. We did TikTok videos for each and every match. We were working hard this weekend. So, if you enjoy it, let us know. If not, we're sorry. Any final thoughts?
I'm disappointed that it's over.
I'm not because that means we get to Raw tomorrow and see the fallout from night one and some of night two.
That's fair.
Y'all have a wonderful weekend. Be safe out there. We'll catch you later.
Bye.